if you're a doctor or other white-collar service professional, think lawyers, accountants, consultants, then you are subject to income phase-outs. They could roll the money to Robinhood, get the bonus, and in the meantime, they could just make non-deductible IRA contributions, which is fine if you're super detail-oriented, but it is a very manual process and just prone to human error.
On today's Office Hours, we're going to be talking about QBI updates with the Big Beautiful Bill. We'll talk about the Robinhood 2% transfer bonus, and we'll also talk about where to invest your extra cash. Stick around. I'm Zach Lundak. I'm an hourly financial planner. All right, the first question comes from Morning Helpful 8339. They ask, can someone please explain the QBI stuff from the Big Beautiful Bill for medical professionals with private practices? My understanding is we have different rules and income caps, but I don't fully understand it. At what income does the 20% QBI deduction phase out? It's an excellent question because it's a big deal for a lot of business owners and especially doctors and related fields, but I'll talk about that more in just a second. So first of all, what is the QBI deduction? It is a it's a tax deduction for business owners who have pass-through entities. Think LLCs and S-Corps are most common. And what is it? So basically, if you make, let's use an example, say $100,000 in your business, you can generally deduct 20% of it or $20,000 off your income for tax purposes. But what's the catch here? So the catch is, so this person posted this in the White Coat Investor Forum on Reddit, meaning they're a doctor. And if you're a doctor or other white collar service professional, think lawyers, accountants, consultants, then you are subject to income phase outs. And if you cross that threshold, then you don't get to take the deduction at all, which means you have to be very careful about not tripping over that on accident because it's a big deal. So for right now, it starts to phase out about 380,000-ish if you're married. Then it phases out over the next 75,000, which is where the first change comes with the Big Beautiful Bill that was passed just before July 4th here in 2025. And that was the main thing. It made that gap wider. So if you're married, it phases out over the marginal 150,000 instead of 75, just half of that for single filers. There was a lot of talk early on when this bill was introduced in the House that there was going to be big changes to this part of the tax code. However, that didn't materialize. They thought maybe the deduction might go to 23%. It's still at 20%. They were thinking that we might do away with the limits for doctors and other sort of, they're called SSTBs. That did not happen. The distinction there briefly, if you're an SSTB, which is that group I described, then once you hit that cap of around $500,000, then you can't take the deduction. If you have any other type of business, if you're above that cap, then it's a different formula, not as generous as the 20% generally. So in closing on this, if you fall in that SSTB category, pay very close attention if your income is around $400,000 or $500,000 or $600,000. If you can get this deduction, it's very valuable. And if you're not paying attention and you cross over this threshold by a dollar, you are going to be getting the opportunity to pay a lot of tax that you could have not paid. So be careful of that. Next question comes from Trying to Hold On. Hello, Bogleheads. I have about $350K in a previous employer's pre-tax 401k. I'm interested in rolling it over to a traditional IRA Robinhood so that I can get a 2% transfer bonus. The catch is that you have to leave it there for 5 years, or else you have to pay back the bonus. At the same time, I'm interested in starting a backdoor Roth IRA strategy as my income exceeds the limit for Roth contributions. Am I understanding correctly that if I roll over my pre-tax 401k into a traditional IRA, I will be taxed on any amount I later contribute to that IRA and convert into Roth? Yes, and they mention due to the pro rata rule, and yes, you would. If so, it seems like I have a few options. Option A, don't do anything. Use the IRA solely for contributions and conversions in my Roth IRA. Option B, do the rollover, get the transfer bonus, wait 5 years, roll the IRA back into my employer 401k, and then start doing Roth IRA, backdoor Roth IRA contributions. That could work, assuming that that strategy is still valid in 5 years. Under current legislation, it's widely accepted as generally okay. Option C, proceed to just pay pro rata tax on $7,000 contributions and subsequent conversions. If I understand correctly, 6,800 of the 7,000 will be taxable until the 5 years has passed. I can put that IRA back in my 401k. So option A, they make this transfer from their 401k to Robinhood, and they get $7,500 as a bonus, so long as they don't transfer the money out of Robinhood. I'm a big fan of this. I think this is a fantastic option, and it's the closest thing to free money that you'll get, assuming you don't engage in other services that Robinhood provides that are designed to generate other fees from you in the future. You do have to generally sign up for a Robinhood Gold account, although the fee for that currently is very nominal, so it shouldn't impact the math of this very much at all. So option B here is to leave the money where it's at so that you don't have to pay pro-rata tax on contributions and subsequent conversions to an IRA. So option A, you get $7,500. Option B, you have $35,000 you're able to get in tax advantaged accounts. The way I think about this is you have to evaluate that $7,500 versus the present value of the tax savings on that $35,000 investment that you would make otherwise. When I do the math, I get your break-even tax savings has to be greater than 21%. If you're projecting to save more than 21% on taxes, then go ahead and do option B. However, for my money and ease of hassle, I would just move that IRA to Robinhood, take the $7,500 bonus and say thank you and move on and not worry about this. For those of you who want to see the math, I've included it here. The reason that it does is because I'm assuming the same rate of return on the account of the investment account of $35,000, whether you invest it in a Roth account or just a typical brokerage account. Now that's a little bit simplified, of course, because you would have taxes along the way. However, I think for our purposes, it's probably a good simplification. So another option that this person could consider that they didn't outline in their post was they could roll the money to Robinhood, get the bonus, and in the meantime, they could just make non-deductible IRA contributions, leave that in the IRA, and then once they roll the Robinhood IRA back into their 401k, they could convert that amount at that time. They will have to deal with the issue of paying tax on the amount over the non-deductible contributions, assuming the account has grown, but that could be a good way to pursue both strategies at the same time. So that's a good option. Another reason I don't like this person going with their option C is that if you do the pro rata rule, you are sort of messing up your pre-tax IRA, and the fact that once you do that, you have a small portion of the account now that is an after-tax IRA, and you have to keep track of your basis in that with Form 8606, which is fine if you're super detail-oriented, but for a lot of people, it just becomes something that is cumbersome and is more effort than it's worth in the long run. So I don't like that option generally for people to pursue if they can avoid it. Our final question today comes from Daddy Longlegs HP. My fiance and I sold our condos and bought our first home together. Congrats. About 6 months ago, we were lucky to have built up solid equity in our previous homes, which we rolled into the new house. When we moved in, I cut back my 401k contributions to free up cash for all the expenses. Now that we've settled in, that flexibility isn't needed anymore. In fact, we have about $5,000 extra per month that we get to spend, and I want to make sure we're using that surplus correctly. So $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year extra. They have more information here. So we're fully maxing out her HSA. We're contributing to company 401k matches. That's good. So this poster has always been hooked on FI, but they are debating their next move. They could ramp up 401k contributions. So with $60,000 extra per year, they're going to need to do something in addition to that as well. Option B is throw extra money at the mortgage. It's got a high interest rate. Option C, dial it back and enjoy life a bit. Get that. So they've got their wedding coming up later next year and hope to start a family after that. So more details, income of $1,200 a week for him. 401k has $419,000. His IRA has $100,000. Fiance's financial information, $1,900 a week income, $11,000 401k, $8,000 Roth IRA, and a $2,000 HSA. They've also got $22,000 of student loans. Their home equity is almost $450,000, which is great, with a loan remaining of just about $250,000. So this is awesome. These guys are in a great spot. They've got $5,000 extra per month. So what's the right way to address this? I think for them, I did not see any mention of any sort of taxable investments, and not even a cash emergency fund there. So I think that would be the place to start for these guys, is build up some cash. It sounds like their spending needs relative to their income is quite favorable right now, so it wouldn't even necessarily have to be that large. However, they might want to consider increasing that, especially as they're starting to start their family here not too far away. However, they might consider even creating a little bit larger emergency fund, since they've got plans to increase the size of their family here coming up. So that could be a great option, as well as just building up taxable investments if they want to take advantage of an opportunity, or if something in their career changes. That could be a great option as well. And one question I would have for this person is, does he have an HSA at work? I'm guessing since he's been so dialed in with savings that he would not have overlooked this, but if he does have an HSA that he's eligible for, especially one through work, because you get to deduct payroll taxes if you just do it through your paycheck, then that could be a great option as well. But with $60,000 per year, even if they fill up both their 401ks, they could still take some of that extra and build up emergency reserves and maybe take a trip or two. So that is fantastic. What they also need to consider is he's really into saving money, and maybe she not so much. So that could cause tension in the household, because allocating your resources together as a family is going to be very important for their long-term, making sure they're hitting their long-term goals, and they could be not aligned 100% right now. And then another tip for everyone who's in this situation where you're going to hit your maximum amount as an employee in your 401k. If you are like this person, you might think, hey, let me get my 401k maxed out as early in the year as possible. And while that's great because you have extra time that it can work in the markets, I don't recommend it, because what happens is if you put money in and your employer is matching you a portion, your employer is not going to put your match if you don't put anything in. So what ends up happening is they have to do like a manual true up at the end of the year, which makes you whole, but it is a very manual process and just prone to human error. So I don't recommend that, just to try and avoid any complications there. But these guys are in a great spot, and great question. Congratulations. All right, that is office hours for today. I hope everyone is doing well. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below, and I'll be happy to get back to you. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.